Hey everyone, my name is Penny Zanker, and it's time to reset. This podcast goes beyond just navigating change. It's about new ways of thinking about how you can approach challenges, how you can shift your mindset when needed, create some space and grace for yourself so that you can rethink, recharge, and reprioritize when and where needed. Are you ready to unlock your full potential? Thank you for hitting play and sharing this next episode with me. It's time to reset. Hello and welcome to Take Back Time. My name is Penny Zanker and I'm your host. And today we are going to talk about the anxiety that people are feeling about the future, about recession, inflation, political polarization that continues to be a challenge, right? We have so many different things that are on people's minds, inclusion, the great resignation. There's so many things right now that are swirling around us and that are causing anxiety and anxiousness. So we're going to talk about strategies to deal with that anxiety and stress. And I'm excited to have Reena Vokoun, and she is the founder and CEO of Passion Fit. She's a best-selling and award-winning author, a TEDx speaker, media spokesperson, certified health and wellness, employee well-being, and professional strengths expert, and got a lot of credentials behind her name. And she is going to share with us those stress types of tips and tricks that we can all use so that as we're going through this turbulent time, that we can do it with a little bit more ease. So Reena, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Penny. It's great to be here.
What do you see people most anxious about, and where's their focus, right? I talk about take back time and I talk a lot about owning our focus. Where is people's focus and where does it need to be, right? Where is it and causing that anxiousness and where does it need to be?
Yes, I work with individuals. I also work with companies and nonprofits and universities and different organizations. So I see a wide variety of perspectives, but I think the connector that I see amongst everyone is just anxiety over the future, right? We've got all the things you mentioned with inflation and the great resignation. There's also the pandemic. I mean, there's just so much uncertainty swirling all around us. And I think that uncertainty just makes people feel insecure and not safe and just not sure of what's coming next. The workplace, as we know, is constantly changing. Policies are changing when it comes to things like remote work, hybrid work, or being back in the office. And I think that's also just creating a lot of tension and stress for people. So I think the focus, yes, for a lot of people is on what's happening all around them, what they don't know, what are the things that are changing. And I think as we've all heard from someone at some point in our life, change is the only constant. So I think in terms of your question of where they should be, and I hate to use the word should because I know everybody comes from a different perspective and a different life situation, but in terms of where they could be to help them get through these tough times is to think about the fact that change is a constant. We have to embrace it, but there are some things that we can control and ways to focus on managing stress and creating some calm and centeredness in our lives. And I know that's part of what we're going to talk about today. So happy to share those tips whenever it's helpful.
You said that people focus on what they don't know, right? But what about what they do know? What about what is within their control, right? And I do think that that's a key human nature, that we have a tendency to want to focus on what's uncertain. But all that does is send us into that spiral of negative thinking or catastrophizing or just feeling overwhelmed because there's so much that we don't know. So how does one do that? How do I shift away from all of that focus on uncertainty of my future? And how do I get that centeredness to understand what I can control? My dog wants to know the same thing. She's asking in the background. She's like, tell me, Reena, tell me.
Yes, it's a burning question, right? Yeah, I think it's taking that focus off externally and turning internally and in towards yourself and focusing on something that you can control, which is, let's start with your breathing, right? I work with a lot of clients on mindfulness techniques and mindset techniques, and practicing mindfulness and focusing on your breath is one of the easiest ways to just focus on the present and focus on yourself. So diaphragmatic breathing is one that's deep into the diaphragm or the belly. So you inhale through your nose as you expand your diaphragm out. And then you exhale through your mouth as you pull your belly or your diaphragm back in. A lot of times when we're stressed and anxious, we have shallow breathing in the chest, which can often cause us to hyperventilate. So when we get deep into the belly, we really start to just calm our heart rate down, our breathing down, and then slowly our mind will start to calm down. And all of those thoughts and worries that are swirling around in our heads that often keep us up at night will start to go away. I think oftentimes we think that, oh, my mind is going to drift again back to all those things that I'm worried about. And that's going to happen. So I think the more we can give ourselves some slack and give ourselves the okay that, yes, your mind is going to wander. It's difficult to focus just on your breath, but the more you do it, the easier it will become. So that's kind of the first tip that I would recommend is focusing on your breathing.
It's always there with us.
Yes.
It's amazing. We take it everywhere we go, our breath.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The second one is positive visualization. So if you are having these maybe visions in your mind of things that could go wrong, your financial situation, your job security, your health and well-being, or that of your loved ones, focusing on that positive visualization will allow you to shift into imagery that is what you want it to be versus what you don't want it to be. So if you can picture yourself being successful in your job, having that security, feeling good about your finances. Maybe you think about your next vacation and visualize yourself on a beach and knowing that you have your life in order, that will help you to create the reality that you want. And positive visualization is a very powerful exercise that, again, you can tap into anytime, just like your breath. So you have control over that.
Sometimes I play the devil's advocate, right? So when my mind isn't there, a lot of people say, well, that feels fake. Like I can't just visualize something that I don't believe is true. What I do sometimes is I just visualize being in a place that makes me happy. Like I'll go to the beach, especially during the pandemic when we couldn't go anywhere, right? Why not just go there and do it like that in the context of go there in your head? Because you can, if you've ever been to the beach before, you can imagine what it feels like to have your feet on the sand and put your feet in the water or to sit and feel the breeze, right? And really like imagine yourself somewhere that makes you happy, that is more peaceful. Do you do something like that? Or do you suggest that as an alternative for somebody who just can't visualize themselves in a place that they've never been, right? It's the future and being in a new job or happy and right now they're not feeling that way, right? Is that something that you would recommend?
Yeah, I think if that isn't motivating for you or calming for you, then yes, if it's going to cause you more stress to picture your goals for the future, then shift to yes, something that is more calming. I definitely do that. I use this positive visualization exercise again with my clients, and I'll tell them whether it's a beach, whether it's a waterfall, whether it's your childhood home or something that does give you good, positive feelings, whatever it is for you personally, I think that is the place to go. I think the former suggestion was more for if you're somebody who is very goal oriented and you want to make your dreams a reality and you want to picture them in your mind. It's kind of like creating a vision board in your head. So that's where I would recommend that. But yes, I agree that it's not for everyone and it's finding whatever form of positive visualization will work for you.
Yeah, I find with people that I've interacted with that, like you said, people are very goal oriented. If they're in a good place, they can visualize themselves. But when people aren't in a good place, I have found that people have a harder time visualizing themselves in a good place, meaning a place that they haven't been or they can't reference. So that's why it's good to have some alternatives, right? In terms of how can they access that anyway? It's almost like also sentence stem, right? That sometimes I've used in the past where even though I feel uncertain about my future, what I can be certain of is, and then blank, right? So that we can also just shift what we're thinking to what we can be certain about.
Absolutely. Yes. And maybe it's even picturing your loved ones, your children, your parents, your pets, anybody that brings you joy, just having that vision in your mind can be very calming as well. The entire goal is just to use your mindset, what's in your brain, your breathing, sort of connecting that mind to the body so that in the body, you feel less of that anxiety and that stress and that tension. So yes, I think the image that comes to each person's mind is definitely going to be different. And it's good to think about at that stage in your life, what's going to empower you and what's not not going to empower you. Because I think that there could be situations where it may not always work to picture those goals. But the third tip that I was going to share is just practicing gratitude. Thanksgiving is coming next month. I think it's a perfect time of year to think about the things that we do have. And no matter where we are in our life, again, everyone's going through different things and different challenges and hardships. But hopefully you can pick something big or small that you are grateful for. And I think that exercise just shifts your focus to a feeling of abundance versus a feeling of lack. And so again, sometimes that's not easy to do when things are not going right and you feel like the world is falling down on you and just can't find something positive to think about. But if you can just even, hey, I woke up today, I have another day, life, that in and of itself is a gift. I'm breathing fresh air. There was a time where we couldn't even go outside and we were wearing masks all the
in
time.
California, right?
So I think being able to just focus on something that you can be grateful for will also just help you shift your focus as well and ease that stress.
Absolutely. I have used gratitude in some of the most difficult times of my life to fill me up with that positive focus because it totally shifts the energy of everything. So the way you look at anything and everything from that point is completely different because you're putting on a new set of glasses, right? So you're seeing things out a different window or in a different way. And that's huge, right? If you can just kind of reset your perspective. I do it daily. I still do it. I've done it for 15 years. So I'm a huge proponent of gratitude. And I find even in those difficult times, like you said, you could find like that one thing. I find that the more you do it, the more you recognize it. Like anything, you become really good at it, right? As you can appreciate the beauty of the leaves that are crunching under your feet or how beautiful the sky is when the sun's coming up and it's through the clouds or whatever it is.
Yes, I agree. I think it does take practice. I mean, sure, some studies might show some people are naturally more optimistic versus others, but I do think regardless of where you come from, it is a skill that you can teach yourself and you can learn with practice. And I love getting out in nature. I think that is one of the best ways to get perspective and practice gratitude. I like to step outside every morning and just breathe the fresh air and just say, I'm so thankful for another day. It's simple. It takes literally a few minutes in my morning and it makes all the difference for sure.
And then there's also something for someone else, doing good, getting outside of yourself and helping someone else has a huge change in our spirit. So I think that's also something that people could do. I encouraged my son. He was having a lot of challenges with anxiety, and that was something that kind of helped him shift his perspective. He volunteered at the SPCA, so he was around animals. Animals made him happy, and he was doing good to support an organization that was supporting those animals to find new homes. So I'm a big proponent of that too.
Yeah, because it makes, not to make our problems not be as big as they might be, but it does make us feel like, okay, maybe my problems are big, maybe, but not as big as somebody else, or that we all have struggles. And so then it makes you feel like you're not alone. And you can shift the focus outside of yourself for a purpose that's bigger than yourself.
Sure. So those are things that people can access at any time when they're feeling stress. How do you suggest that people deal with that, like in the workplace? Do you deal with people in the workplace and they're experiencing an overload of their commitments and things like that? Do you have any specific strategies that you would recommend in the workplace that might be different than this?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I do work with people on workplace wellness and corporate wellness. And I think it's still something that you can do, whether it's the positive visualization, the breathing, the gratitude. You could write that down maybe at your desk during lunchtime, or you can join together. A lot of companies are offering mindfulness sessions, whether it's on campus or remotely over webinars or live stream classes. So I think it's finding for yourself times of your day where if you want to do that more privately, whether you're in your home office or your work office, just take those times to do those things when you need them most. And if it helps you to also join groups or take advantage of employee well-being perks and different offerings that your company has, then that's also a way for you to be able to practice these forms of mindfulness in different times. Because I think a lot of people are experiencing this. Many of the stress and anxieties people are having are because of work, right? The workplace right now is a very stressful place. And I think it is causing a lot of uncertainty for people. And I think companies are realizing more than ever how important employee well-being is. It's something I've been working in for many years, and I've even seen the shift from pre-pandemic versus now. I think pre-pandemic, it was much more of a nice to have. It was, oh, if we have budget left over, we'll consider that maybe next year, but we need to see the ROI on it. Whereas now, I mean, of course, you always want to see the ROI on different investments that you make for your employees. But I think people are realizing we need to be able to look at our employees as whole people and take care of them personally and professionally. And that's something that I have a huge passion for. I worked in Silicon Valley in the tech and digital media industry for about 16 to 17 years before launching my company and getting more into the health and wellness space. And one of the reasons I did that, I left my job at Google and my corporate career, was because I saw that there were a lot of people who were burnt out and were facing health issues because of work stress. And I want to help other people as well.
Sure. This isn't new, right? The pandemic has only amplified the dysfunctions that we already had. So it's not like these are new problems, but I want to challenge you a little bit and see what your opinion is here, because a lot of companies are putting in different types of wellness programs. But what I'm finding in some of the people that I've talked to is they just don't have the time to take advantage of them. And even the workload that is being given to them, it's not like, oh, yeah, we have these wellness Fridays and you can do this. They're not giving them the space to actually take advantage of those. And so even though they exist, there's this gap between the programs that exist and the people that can actually use them. How do people bridge that gap when it's not being lived?
I think that's very true. That is the reality. And I think that was happening before the pandemic, and it's happening probably even more so now, right?
So yeah, maybe.
Yeah, there might be more offerings out there, but then not enough time to make use of them. And I think a lot of that stems from company culture. It really comes from the top down. So I think senior leaderships, teams within these companies and management teams really need to be setting the standard and setting the example. So if they are sending emails at 2 a.m. and expecting people to always be on and not giving people the opportunity to set boundaries and have some balance in their life, whatever that balance looks like for them, I think that can be challenging. And what I would encourage employees to do is to
that's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah, I think if employees are voicing that concern and saying, I would love to be able to take advantage of all of these wellness perks, but I simply don't have the time because of my workload or my work arrangement. With people going back into the office, they might be having to commute again. There's so many different stressors all around them. So I think it's voicing it and then working with your management team, working with your own team if you're a manager, and figuring out how you can communicate what your needs are, and also continue to understand the expectations of you, because obviously you still want to be productive, you want to be engaged, you want to perform and excel at your goals. But if it's at the expense of your own health and well-being and happiness on a consistent basis, that's going to be a problem not only for you, but for your employer as well. So I think raising your concerns, having a voice, and then trying to work together to figure out some ways to rectify it is what I would recommend.
Yeah, it's hard because a lot of people, depending on the level of role and whatnot, is they don't feel comfortable to say, oh, I'm going to go to that lunch thing that you've got there for me. And so I'm not going to be able to spend that extra hour completing this project or doing whatever. But I think that you said it is that what's happening, this is just my view, and I'm interested in your picture with this, is that the boundaries that used to be there have eroded, that used to be held up by the organization or the environment. A boundary might be leaving work and going home, right? There's that transition that was actually there. And now in many cases, when people are working from home, that's not there anymore. We used to work in offices and those walls have gone down. So all these natural boundaries that helped us to stay sane at times and to be concentrated and to come home and be able to shift into home life and have a little bit more balance, the onus is put back on the employee. Employers are trying to do more and more, but I do think it's important for the employee to recognize that this is happening and that we as individuals, we do have to be more clear on our boundaries and we do need to communicate those. It's okay to work overtime once in a while for a project, but if you're consistently asking somebody to work overtime and over and over and over again, it's important that there's a conversation about it, right? And not to feel that's taboo to have that conversation. I think in some cases that's happening, right? That's why the great resignation is happening, because people are like, okay, I'm leaving because this is not working. But
Yeah.
we have to understand that it's okay to set those boundaries and okay to have those discussions, as long as you're not like, it's like this and that's it. There's a way to have that, to say, listen, how can we accomplish this in a different way because it's not working?
Right. I think, yeah, everyone's different. And honestly, generationally, it varies. And I don't want to generalize in any way, but I know a lot of the research shows that millennials are voicing their opinions. They're a lot of the ones that are leading the great resignation because they are wanting to set the boundaries. They want work-life balance. Many of them are advocating for remote work. And then it could be some of the other generations, all the way up through Gen X and boomers, that are used to a certain style of culture. And maybe they're the ones that don't feel comfortable voicing their opinions. But then to your point, also, if you're earlier in your career, you might be a little bit more hesitant, and vice versa. So it really just does depend on the individual. But I think at the end of the day, I know I've learned this in my career. I'm sure you have as well, Penny. We have to advocate for ourselves because no one is going to do it for us. No one is going to be able to read our minds or really understand what we're up against, not only in our professional life, but personally as well. Only we know when we've maybe hit our limit, or we're about to hit our limit, or we're at the point of burnout. And unless we can recognize that and communicate that effectively, the ones that are going to suffer are going to be us. So I think that that's an important lesson to learn at any stage of your life and any stage of your career, is to take notice of it, take stock of it, and know when you need to raise your hand. And I've been through it personally. I've experienced burnout, so I know how difficult it can be, but I think it's so important, especially for your health and wellness.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious, what's your definition of productivity and why?
I think that's a great question. I would say my definition of productivity is working efficiently, effectively, strategically, and intelligently to reach your goals. And why I think that is because all of us have gone through periods of life, or maybe during our academic careers, where we thought you have to work harder, more hours, longer hours. It was a badge of honor to be busy and always working. And I've experienced that myself, but I think that isn't necessarily going to produce the best results and the best work. So being able to really think about how you can be productive and efficient with your time, focus on, I always tell my clients, focus on the 3 to 5 most needle moving, strategic, important, impactful goals versus setting a list of 30 goals that you may never achieve.
Absolutely.
And so I think if you can do that and really focus on the things that matter and manage your time accordingly, then you're going to be more successful in not only reaching your goals, but producing higher quality work than if you burn the midnight oil constantly and there's no end in sight. And that's how you burn out and not achieve your goals.
Absolutely. Like it. I'm about efficient and effective too, right? You got to have that balance in order to bring it forward so that you're not caught up in the speed of things and making mistakes, but at the same time that you're getting the quality that you want to deliver. So is there anything I didn't ask you that you feel like the audience needs to hear?
I think we covered most of it. I think it's just important to, without your health, I think it's really hard to be successful in your professional life and your personal life. So hopefully more and more people are taking stock of their health. And as hard as it can be to take time out of your busy schedule to focus on it, it's really critical so that you can also give back to other people, whether it's your family, your employer, your community. So take care of yourself, and then you'll be able to excel in other areas of your life. But yeah, I think we covered all the major points, Penny, and I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Great. Thanks. Me too. And hopefully you guys have, maybe you've heard a thing or two before, and that's okay, because maybe you heard it in a different way today that's going to make your ears perk up and go, you know what? Now's the time. Because that's what's important, is that you can leave here today maybe with an extra tip or just with a realization that now's the time. So just to summarize what we talked about today is that you may be focused and thinking about all that's going on in the future, all that's going on around you. And really, the truth is that's there and it's not going to change. Things aren't going to go back to the way that they were. So how do we accept where we are and focus on the things that we can control and just be able to self-regulate so that we can bring the best of ourselves? We talked about breathing. We talked about visualizations. We talked about gratitude. And maybe you also can refer to things that you've done in the past that you know that work for you, but maybe you let them go. Maybe you're not doing them anymore and you can bring them back into your life. So be looking for those things that support you. Go check out Reena and her website. Everything's going to be included in the show notes. I'm sure she's got other great resources and things for you guys available. And I want to thank you for being here. Reena, thank you for being here. And thank you all for being here. My name is Penny Zanker, and this is Take Back Time. We'll see you in the next episode. Hey, thank you for spending this time with me. It really means a lot. If you're feeling a little off, distracted, overwhelmed, stuck, or just out of sync, remember that's your signal to reset. And that's all it takes, just recognizing one reset moment at a time. So stay tuned for more tips, tools, tricks, stories, strategies, all here on Time to Reset. We'll see you in the next episode.